Time is now 7:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment for July 2023. I'm James Sullivan, and as chairman of the board, I'd ask you now to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting. Also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, also filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and finally by posting the agenda on the municipal website. Ms. C, could we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Connor. Don't see him. Mr. Stoner,
Yeah.
Ms. Chevalier is absent. Mr. Scogno, I know, is absent. Ms. Andrews. Here. Ms. Testaverde is absent. Mr. Izzo.
Here.
Mr. Clancy.
Here.
Mr. Gill.
Here.
Myself, Ms. C. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. C. I'll note that there are 4 board members present, which does constitute a quorum by the rules and regulations. This meeting is being conducted electronically as a webinar via the internet. It's unique and it takes patience on all involved because we're not in the courtroom conducting this, but we're doing so from our own homes or offices. This meeting is being televised by OBTV Channel 15 as well as YouTube Live. I remind those watching on any device that there's up to a 30-second delay in communication. This will become important to you if you wish to personally join the public portion. Anyone calling in would have to lower their device or you'll be confused by the time delay. I ask all participants in this meeting that are present in the in the Zoom room to silence their cell phones to avoid any disturbances. Our meeting will follow the same protocols as if we were present in the courtroom. Tonight we have some general housekeeping issues, and I believe we are down to 4 applications. Is that correct, Ms. C? Two are not on?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll have 4 applications this evening, and of course followed by a public portion after each application, not after all 4, but after each. That becomes important to you if you have any interest in any of the applications that we're going to be listening to tonight. And yet you might have questions or feel like you have comments. Time to now to get a piece of paper and a pen so you can keep some notes during the application. That way, when you call in, you'll be able to converse with us in a logical manner. As in all public, and the public portion, as I said, will take place after the full testimony in each particular application. I don't see any reason for a recess tonight. I think we'll move right through. I don't know that there's any other professionals here except our counsel, Mr. Clancy, so I don't think any professional is going to be testifying on behalf of any of the applicants. Ms. C, would you pick up for advisories, anything that I missed, please?
Sure. Just a few reminders, the zoning board members will be unmuted during the first half of the meeting when they will be required to vote on other agenda items. The zoning board attorney, chairman, and secretary will remain unmuted throughout the meeting. Everyone else will be muted. Once the presentation for the application begins, applicants' professionals will be asked to turn on their video and unmute themselves in the order in which they will testify. For the public, I will announce the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number to come forward and announce their name and address. I will also announce the last 4 digits of the next caller's phone number so that they can be prepared. We will share our screen to display any exhibits. The meeting information will be displayed on the screen multiple times during the meeting so that any resident who wishes to call in and join the meeting can do so. Please be patient. You will have an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. C. Mr. Clancy, let me just have a little conversation with you for the sake of those applicants tonight. For those applicants and for anyone watching, the board is consisted of 9 individuals who are volunteer citizens from the community. 7 of them are considered full members. 2 of them are considered alternates. There's 2 different types of applications. There's use variances, which require a supermajority of 5 of 7 votes. 7 members vote. Tonight, all these applications are a bulk or a C variance for homeowners. but you're still going to need a plurality of the votes. So with 4 members, you'll need 3 positive votes. So if 2 people voted against and 2 people voted for, the application would be denied. So I just want Mr. Clancy, who is our counsel, to try and put that on the record and explain it perhaps a little bit better than I did. Mr. Clancy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you did an eloquent job, kind of stole my thunder. So so just so that everybody understands, we have only 4 board members in attendance tonight. They are prepared to hear the applications that are presented. As the chairman mentioned, that does constitute a quorum for us to be able to hold the meeting tonight. The situation would be, because we need a plurality. You will need 50-50 won't do it, because that won't. So if we have 2 in favor, 2 against, it's effectively a denial, and that's the way it will be presented, or I should say that's the way it'll be recorded after it's presented. So anybody who is proceeding tonight needs to obtain a minimum of 3 positive votes from a board member in order to have your application approved by the board, and that's where it sits, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy, for that. We'll move ahead with the agenda as written. I think Ms. Sawant is not present tonight, correct, Ms. C?
That's correct.
Okay,
Just Damien and I.
okay. What I'm going to take the liberty to is I'm going to move item number 5 on the agenda, the 2022 annual report. I'm going to defer that to the end of the meeting, so we'll move through with the applications. The number 3 on the agenda this evening is minutes, board members. And we have 2, I'll call each one in, the minutes of May 4, 2023 meeting. I hope everyone has had a chance to review them. Absent any comment or questions, I'd ask someone to move them for adoption.
I'll move it, Stoner.
Is there a second?
Andrews, second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Miss Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Izzo,
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Okay, we didn't catch you there.
All right.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. All right, board members, the same applies to minutes of May 18, 2023 meeting. Someone move those for adoption, please.
I'll move for adoption, Stoner.
Is there a second?
Izzo, will second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Miss Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Izzo,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Item 4 is resolutions, and if I'm correct, Ms. C, we only have 1, correct, tonight?
That's correct.
All right, it's 15-2023Z, Robert Link for C variance. Mr. Clancy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, you've already been provided with a copy of this, so we'll just do an executive summary. You'll remember this was from our last C variance hearing, 13 Mercury Circle, Old Bridge, New Jersey. It's block 4000.15, lot 6. The applicant was Robert Link. He was represented by Mr. Mirabelli. That was back on July 6th of 2023. Remember, this was a single family home. It had a front porch. It just needed a variance because the setback on the front porch was not within the limits. He's moving it from 25 feet to 18.18 feet. The board did hear that matter and did vote to approve it.
30 lot 13.11. Physical location is 269 Highway 34. This is for a per liturgy, major preliminary and final site plan with the variance. I know Mr. Sachs is present. What I am going to say that board members, we do have a memorandum. It was issued by the Township Planner, Venus Sawant. Put some of it on the record. Everyone has seen a copy of this. This is for waivers, and this is a fully built out building. It's not that they're starting new construction, so it's not uncommon when someone may be taking over a property to do something but may require a use variance, that many of these items would be already on record. So it would be
I just put the camera on.
repetition to do so. I counted, and there are, if I'm not mistaken, 52 of them, so I'm not going to read them all in. I'm going to read one of them, though, and it's item 3B, and it's community impact statement, and I'll tell you why later. Ms. Sawant opines the following: the subject property, also known as block 4230, lot 13.11, is located at 269 Highway 34 in the Economic Development Opportunity Zone. The property contains a school and daycare facility, the Archangel Raphael Academy, which includes 3 buildings, 3 in-ground pools, a basketball court, tennis court, jungle gym, playground, and other recreational facilities, as well as an associated parking lot. The applicant is seeking a D1 use variance relief and major preliminary and final site plan approval to use the existing gymnasium for prayer liturgy. Our office has reviewed the waiver request by the applicant for the following items. And as I said, there are 52 of them. I'll continue at the end of them. The memo continues. In 1993, then applicant and owner, First Friends Nursery School, filed an application 33-1993P with the planning board for major preliminary and final site plan approval to construct a summer day camp facility, which would be achieved in 2 phases. Phase 1 would include the construction of a softball field, tennis court, arts and crafts area, and basketball court. Phase 2 would include the construction of a 12,000 square foot building, softball and basketball facilities, tennis courts, swimming pool, playground areas, soccer field, and volleyball court. As part of the resolution of approval, the applicant agreed that the phase 1 operation would be temporary, involving only playground activities for the summer of 1993 and no construction of any structures. The applicant agreed that they would submit the full site plan for phase 2 by September of 1993. The planning board granted the approval with this condition. However, the approval for phase 1 and subsequently phase 2 both expired due to the applicant failing to submit the final site plans for phase 2 by September of 1993. In 1994, the applicant proceeded to file another application. It was number 30-1994P with the planning board for major preliminary and final site plan approval, similar to the prior application. Phase 2 would include an 11,000 square foot school building and a daycare center, a gym, 2 swimming pools, a tot lot, playground, access road, softball field, volleyball court, pit area, and parking lot. The planning board granted the approval and the building and associated facilities were built and are operational. In 2016, the applicant filed an application 23-2016Z with this zoning board for bulk variance relief to construct 2 LED message signs on the property. Bulk variance relief was required as the proposed signs violated the permitted sign height and the sign type, where only static signs were permitted. The zoning board granted the approval and the signs were built and they are operational. The current applicant, St. Mary and Archangel Raphael Coptic Orthodox Church, is seeking a D1 use variance relief and major preliminary and final site plan approval to use the existing gymnasium for prayer liturgy on Saturdays and Sundays when the preschool and the day camp are closed. Hours of worship are not a permitted principal use or permitted accessory use to a daycare facility in the EDO 1 zone. And therefore, D1 use variance relief is required. Please note that the applicant does not propose any change to the site and therefore requests numerous waiver items. Our office recommends that all items listed above be waived, except for item 3B. The applicant should submit a community impact statement to address the impact, if any, of the proposed use. The applicant should be advised that waiving any of the completeness items does not constitute approval or any portion of the application, and that any information found to be necessary during the review process must be supplied. So I remind you, board members, that the advisory, the recommendation would be to allow the other waivers with the exception of item 3B, which is community impact statement. Mr. Sachs?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
I'm good here, Mr. Chairman. I'm in your old haunting grounds here. I have a meeting at the East Brunswick zoning board, so I'm sitting out in the hallway. So that's why you see the police department logo. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we have received Ms. Sawant's report. We have no objection to providing the community impact statement. And I think, as Mr. Chairman, as you noted, there are no site changes proposed. It's strictly a use variance to utilize the site for a house of worship for Saturday and Sunday liturgy when the day camp and nursery school is closed.
Thank you, sir. Ms. C, is anything from the township side or anything that you as the assistant planner want to put on, or are we going to stand with Vina's memo?
There's nothing else for us to add. Mr. Gill can opine the same, I believe.
Mr. Gill?
Yes, I was prepared to say absolutely nothing.
Okay.
The memo for Ms. Sawant stands. I was just here in case there were some questions.
All right, thank you. And our counsel, Mr. Clancy?
I have no additional comment.
Okay, board members, it's fairly straightforward. These waivers come up from time to time on applications. First of all, does anybody have any questions, board members? Go ahead, Ms. Andrews. Go.
Are we voting tonight on the waivers with the exception of the 3B, the
Yes,
community impact station
Yes.
statement?
yes.
Okay, so that's all we'll be voting on.
All you're voting on is waivers. You're not voting on any use. You're just voting on a waiver for those items.
Okay, now when will we have a community impact statement?
I would assume by the next.
Yeah, we'll provide that we'll provide that almost immediately. So that's an easy document for us to prepare.
It would have to be prepared for us before the application, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, someone want to move to allow for the waivers, except item 3B as written in Mr. Sawant's July 19, 2023 memo.
I'll
Andrew,
move it,
move it.
Stoner.
I'm sorry, I think I heard both Ms. Andrews and Mr. Stoner, so either way, both.
I'll
were in-
second.
Okay,
Roll call, please, Ms. C.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
yes,
Mr. Izzo,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sachs.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you.
Good night. Okay, that brings us to our applications for the evening. And those watching at home, or if you have any interest, there was 6 of them on and 2 of them are not. And let me allow you the knowledge that 2 of them, the 2 that are not on the application, if you're following, is 23-2023Z. It's Delcy Sambula. That's 34 Farmbrook Drive for a driveway. In that matter, the application has been adjourned until August 17th, and there will be further notice. So if you were watching tonight and that matter was something you wanted to speak about, it's not going to be heard in this evening's agenda. It will be on August 17th, 2023. There will be further notice. The other one that will not be on tonight is 22-2023Z. It's Shivze Urgent Care LLC. Location is 1118B US Highway 9. It's in reference to signage. That matter will be moved to September 21st with further notice. So if you're interested in that matter, it will not be heard this evening. It will be on the agenda September 21 with further notice. Having said that, we'll go right to the top of the applications. And the first one we have is 05-2023Z, Thomas Peak. This is the medium high density zone, R5. It's block 14, lot 148, at location 149 Orchard Avenue for a driveway requiring a C variance. Is Mr. Beek here? Oh, here he is. I see you, sir. Mr. Beek, are you going to be the only one testifying this evening? I see there's a lady to your right. Is she going to be testifying as well? You have to unmute your, we can't hear you. There's a button there to unmute so we can hear you. We cannot do that on our.
I
found it.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, perfect. I guess you heard my question, sir. Would
I
both
did.
of you, are both of you going to speak tonight?
It was just going to be myself.
Well, I have the experience that we're going to swear both in because you're never going to, if that's your wife, she's going to have something. And I mean that in the nicest way.
That's okay.
Okay. The board attorney will swear you both in, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can both of you please just raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hands down and then one at a time, just place your name onto the record.
Thomas Peak.
Kimberly Heiser.
Thank you both. Mr. Chairman?
You both reside at this address, correct?
149.
149, yeah. And we see that you want to do something with the driveway. I'll give an explanation, and for others that are watching, and there's 3 others that are going to have hear the same thing. Normally when these homeowner issues come up, they don't involve professionals. When we have bigger issues, uses, there'll be planners, lawyers, engineers. So we try to make it a little more comfortable and easy for you. However, there are certain things you have to put on as what is known as proofs, so the board can actually is empowered to vote. So our professional tonight, Mr. Gill, is going to tell us why you need a variance. But before that happens, what we're going to ask you to do is, in your own words, tell us what you're doing, why you're doing this, how it's going to be accomplished, why it's needed. And then the board members may have some questions for you. Mr. Gill then will explain to us about the variance. When we go through that period, when everybody's said and done, I'll go to a public portion, should there be anyone from the public that wishes to speak on the matter. Once that's closed, I'll come back to you. I'll ask you for any final comments, and then I'm going to ask if you'd like the board to take a vote. And again, I remind each and every one of the applicants tonight, there are only 4 voting members here tonight. 4, so you need 3 of the 4.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead, Mr. Beek, and tell us the who, why, what, where, and we'll go from there.
This is to improve our property. Obviously, what we had was a grass and stone driveway, which becomes, especially if we get heavy rain, becomes a mess and treads everything in the house. So at the very least, we were hoping for just a stone driveway, but we really want the asphalt driveway and to clean everything up. It's never really looked like a driveway. It's always looked a little of everything. So we've made a lot of effort to improve and clean up the driveway. We're going to try to keep it clean and tidy from this point on. So that's about it, really.
Okay, I can understand that. I visited your property. I know what you're speaking about. And I know you also need a variance. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Gill to tell us why. Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. As Mr. Beek let the board know, he had applied for an application to reconstruct we'll call it an improvised driveway. It was a gravel driveway that over the years has become overgrown and then reestablished and then overgrown. So it doesn't look like a formal driveway. However, it does lead to an existing garage that was built on the property previously. So the applicant is here this evening because he proposes to resurface the existing dirt and grass driveway and gravel with asphalt 0 feet from the side property line where 5 foot is required. The reason he's before the board this evening is because there's a small expansion of the driveway that's visible on the survey at the back of the driveway, at the mouth of the garage. It's moving over to the right. The applicant has a little bit of a storage area where he keeps some personal items. I believe there was a small boat. I'm not sure if that's still the case, that he wanted to store in that area, and he didn't want to store it on the grass and have it become overgrown around those things. So wanted to formalize that area. While we allow patios a little bit closer to the property line at 3 feet, because it's attached to the driveway, we're treating it as a driveway. And that's why the 5 foot setback is required, because he could theoretically use it for parking of vehicles. And we wanted to take the most conservative approach. But it's for that section of driveway that's approximately 25 to 30 feet at the rear of the driveway that's highlighted on the submitted survey. That's why he's before us this evening.
The area, Mr. Gill, that in that highlight that I'm looking at on the survey, from the street going back to where that last 20 feet are, that is not going to touch the property line? Would that
I'm
be
sorry.
right? In other words, it's going to comply except for the last 20 feet?
Approximately, yeah. So as you can see, there's an existing established line that's kind of wavy.
Yep.
that limits, that's the existing driveway. For that section, it will comply the length of the property until it gets to that back portion where it starts at the 100 mark that's identified. So those last 25, 30 feet will be too close to the property line.
Was there any communication between you, between the town and the applicant to sort of abate that?
There was some discussions with, I believe Danny issued the denial letter on this. We did speak about the possibility of relocating that area to a conforming location. As you can see on the left side of the driveway, there is a grass area between the driveway and the home. Mr. Beek, feel free to opine if your recollection is different. But my understanding is that rather than putting it on that side, which would bring the driveway very close to the home and potentially create drainage issues for the house, he wanted to keep it where he already had an established kind of yard space for storage and wanted to formalize that and neaten it up.
Yeah, my concern was exactly that, the drainage from that last 20 feet going onto the adjacent lot 151.
Which is always a concern for impervious surfaces. So our recommendation as always would be, if the board wanted to consider this application, that the driveway should be pitched such that it drains towards the driveway and out towards the street and not sheeting water onto the adjacent parcel.
Thank you. Mr. Clancy, there really isn't such a thing as zero, right? Aren't you then on someone else's, it's an adjoining property line?
Yeah, it looks like it abuts right up to it, right?
Well, there's a fence there that runs the length of that, but
That's true. Yeah, I'm looking at it as we speak. Yeah.
The fence also meanders.
I'm sorry?
Right, it kind of meanders over the property line. Does that sound right, Mr. Gill?
Yeah, it's approximately 2.5 feet over in the back, and then
see.
approximately a foot over onto the applicant's property in the front.
If I could interject.
Yes, by all means.
We are planning to have, I think, what they call a Belgian block raised section, which will retain all the water on our property between us and the next door neighbor. It won't be just a plain runoff. It's going to be a raised edging to the asphalt.
I understand that part, but if you're encroaching on the other property as the fence is, if you were to sell your house, you wouldn't get clear title on it. You wouldn't be able, the new owner wouldn't get clear title because there's an encroachment. And that's why I asked Mr. Clancy, if you're on a zero, you touching the property line, you're actually on an adjoining property.
Well,
So
we're
kind of hoping we could mediate something away from there. Is the Belgian block, what's the size of that?
yeah, we can concede if 6 inches from what might be conceived as the property line or something like that.
And then you would start your Belgian block there?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, just to be sure that we're not on the property line. Absolutely.
Right. I would think that might be a good idea. And you heard Mr. Gill speaking about the driveway being pitched because water has to be retained on someone's property. They can't pass their water onto somebody else's.
Yeah, I like I say, the Belgian block is definitely going to be higher than the asphalt. So that whole, whatever goes down as asphalt will have an edging in order to not allow it to break up, you know. And that edging will be raised. So I
Chairman,
can't say at the moment how much it's going to be raised, but it's going to be, in my imagination at least, or in conversations I've had, it's going to be, 3 or 4 inches, I would imagine. So
Let me see what Mr. Gill he had something else to say.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say that from an enforcement perspective, we do have, this survey does provide us with 2 great markers. If we're looking at the survey, the back corner of the house is exactly 29.7 feet from that property line. And then the garage, if you see there, is 11.1 feet.
Right.
So if he was conceding 4 or 6 inches, whatever the board thought appropriate, we would be able to verify without the need to have markers set or anything like that. that he didn't encroach on the property line, so we can avoid any title concerns that the board may have with a 0 setback. And then in terms of the driveway, yeah, I could confirm that Belgian block typically extends 3 to 4 inches. In some cases, 5 inches. You don't want to go too high because then you risk damaging doors when you're opening cars and on lower cars. But that would certainly retain water and prevent it from spilling on or sheeting onto the neighbor's property.
Mr. Beek, would you think, would that be something you would consider on this application?
Absolutely, yes. We'll do anything to, to see this through. We've done a lot of work and we don't want to see it go and not achieve what we're after. The actual amount of, that goes towards the neighbors is not that critical. There's nothing deciding that other than, I understand I've got to stay away from the fence. In fact,
Right.
we put 2 new posts in for the next door neighbor, to ensure that the posts, the fence was going to be more stable. So,
Well, the driveway would complement your property nicely. I mean, you have a very nice home and I know it's a big undertaking, but we have to worry about the neighbor as well. So if we
Yeah,
can try and make this,
yeah.
so we can, let me just see if there's any other board members that have any questions. Mr. Izzo, go ahead, sir.
If we're looking at the survey,
Yes,
the yellow where it says the 100.00,
right.
when you're coming forward towards Orchard Avenue and it's just plain, that's going to be grass?
No, that's gonna be.
No grass at all. The
So it's
yellow
gonna be-
is all going to be asphalt.
All yellow, okay. Is this to help you negotiate parking the boat? If you still.
Well, it's only a dinghy on a trailer,
Okay,
so
okay.
yeah, it's not anything. I don't have any specific use in mind. I actually have the dinghy on the other side of the house right now, so it's not a. But I don't like standing the things on dirt because the corrosion of the damp ground is not good for it, So
And
the
French-
asphalt will work better.
Would a French drain help?
A French drain.
Well, a drain, I get how, and Mr. Gill can maybe help me out, a drain that would be underneath with a grating. And then you could direct that water to Orchard Avenue?
The whole property is pitched towards the road, towards Orchard Avenue. The whole property is. So if we have that raised edging, I can't see that we're gonna that area is gonna gather enough depth that it'll go over the edging that we're proposing. I think it's going to gather in all of the water that lands on the asphalt, that yellow area.
All right.
If I may, Chairman and Mr. Izzo,
Yes.
I think you were kind of hinting at it, Mr. Izzo. Is the area in front of the yellow between the existing driveway and the property, will that remain grass? Mr. B?
Right now, it's a flower bed. That's
Is
the
that-
intent. That's the
Is the-
intent for it. I'm sorry.
So you're gonna have a planter area there.
Yeah, it's already there, actually.
Behind the Belgian
Okay.
wall.
Yeah.
So now would the
Okay.
water run off into that flower bed and still spill over to lot 151?
Well, it's going to have to climb the Belgian block. So I can't see that it's going to do that since it's running down the driveway.
So the Belgian block will be also in the flower bed area?
Correct.
All of that side of the every
Ah,
edge
down.
except for the house side. It's going to be up against the path. So.
Anything else, Mr. Rizzo?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Stoner, anything?
No,
Okay, and Ms. Andrews? Did you're muted, Ms. Andrews?
If they have this Belgian block up.
Yep.
Now that's going to be within the property area. It will not be encroaching on the neighbor's property.
It will not, no.
Okay, that's what I wanted to understand. Thank you.
Mr. Clancy, if the board were to act favorably upon or agree upon that, could we word this that that block must be there and that it has to be at least off the property line? So it would prevent runoff and as mentioned by Mr. Gill, that there should be a pitch there that all that water would be captured certainly within the driveway and moving out towards the street.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what I've heard from the board's discussions and certainly what the applicant seems to be agreeing to is 6 inches off the property line for the Belgian block. And this, the idea is that's going to be pitched away from the neighbor's property line. And it sounds like there's an interest in having it pitched, in fact, towards the street. I think those are the conditions.
I think the
That have
pitch
been
to the
discussed.
street is going to be natural. I think that's just the pitch away from the block.
Okay, so pitched away from the block would be
Yeah.
something the board would be proposing. Okay.
Because he's testifying, and you are under oath, Mr. Beek, you say that the water does flow directly out towards the roadway.
From the garage to the roadway is
Yes,
okay.
is a direct line.
Okay,
Downwards.
okay, very good. I'm gonna, I don't see any more questions from the board. I'm gonna go to a public portion this time. I don't know that there's anybody gonna speak, but I have to open one. Ms. C, could we put up the phone numbers, please? All right, if you're watching us on any device and you've heard this application and you wish to be heard on this matter, there are phone numbers, numerous phone numbers there. You can call any one of those and it will come direct to Ms. C, who will handle that, and then the board can listen to your comment. Once again, we're going to probably settle this matter tonight, so it'll be the only public portion. There will not be another hearing on this. I'm assuming that the applicant, when I ask him, is probably going to ask for a vote. So if you have any interest in this matter, I would ask you to please call in now. Once again, this is for 149 Orchard Avenue, looking to pave an unpaved area, an unpaved driveway, and they want to asphalt that to complement the property and to, I guess, preserve the land as well. Anyone in queue at the moment, Ms. C?
There are no raised hands, Chairman.
We'll just give it a few more seconds here because once again, this is matter at 149 Orchard Avenue. The phone numbers are in front of you if you're watching us. Now would be the time to call because it'll be the only public portion on this matter.
Chairman, just letting you know, I believe Miss Andrews had her hand raised earlier.
Okay, I'll go back to her.
Once we return. Mhm.
Sure. Anyone in queue at all?
No,
Okay. Mr. Clancy, I think we've given sufficient time for a call.
Absolutely, Chairman, over a minute. And those numbers that Ms. Z put up, they don't change if anybody's looking for a future application. So we should be good to close it.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Ms. Andrews, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, I just want to know, because right now the water is going where it's going, but you have grass there and there are other things. Once you put the asphalt on there, that's not going to change the way the water comes because it's not going to be absorbed into the area that was previously grass and, you know, whatever, glass and stone and grass that had been before. So once that's paved over, it's not going to be a problem. The water will still run the same way.
Absolutely. It's clear to run right to the road.
Okay.
Even now it runs to the road if we have enough rain. So
the angle.
yeah, it's the garage is much higher than the road. So
Anything else, Ms. Andrews? No? Any
No.
other board member? Mr. Beek, you have any final comments?
not really. We're hoping for it to be passed.
Would you, again, if the board acts favorably, it would be with the conditions that Mr. Clancy will recite before we take a vote, okay? So
Okay.
it's nothing surprising. We've already spoken about them, but he will repeat them for the board to vote on. So if you would like me to take a vote, I'm going to call for one now.
Okay.
Mr. Clancy? The C variance only, and it's for the a zero on the property line as was applied for.
Right, and based upon what testimony has been placed onto the record here, it's my understanding that the applicant is agreeing to conditions that there would be number one, a Belgian block barrier placed along the property line where this driveway would be installed, and that would be located a minimum of 6 inches off the property line. And condition number 2 would be that the installed driveway will be pitched away from the property line, from where those blocks are installed. That's my understanding as to the application that is now before the board.
Right, and this would have to be completed within 1 year.
Okay.
Mr. Beek, do you understand them as they were explained?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to take a vote then, sir. Someone in favor of moving this? All right, I'll move it. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Stoner.
Stoner seconds, roll call, please.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes,
Mr. Izzo,
Yes,
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes,
Thank you.
we'll have a resolution available to you by the next meeting, Mr. Clancy.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your appearance before the board. Thank you for reinvesting in your own home there. I know it's going to complement it nicely, and best of luck on the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, contact the building department for any other additional permits that you may need or et cetera. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, that completes that application. We'll move down the page to the fourth one down. It's 30-2023Z. It's Ronald Nathanson. This is in the low density R30 block 13003.13 lot 29. Location, physical location 16 Higgins Road, requiring a C variance for a deck. Applicant proposes to construct a deck in the rear yard of their property. Is Mr. Nathanson here?
Yes.
I do. I see you now, sir. Are you going to be the only one to testify?
No, George Morosis is my contract.
Okay. The board attorney will swear both of you in, okay? Starting with you, Mr. Nathanson, as you are the applicant.
Nathanson, just raise your right hand like that. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can lower your hand. And if you would, just place your name onto the record.
Ronald Nathanson.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman?
You want to swear in his contractor now?
Yes, might as well.
Yeah. Mr. What is it? How do you say your name? Marquise? Unmute your, whatever there's a little unmute button that you have to turn off there, or so we can hear you. There you go. Perfect.
George Marousis.
Marousis, okay.
Okay, Mr. Marousis, do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can put your hand down.
All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Nathanson, you heard what I told the first applicant. We're going to ask you the who, what, whys, and then we may have we'll go to the Township Zoning Officer, Mr. Gill. He'll tell us why you need a variance. We may have some more questions. You may have some questions. We'll wind up going to a public portion, and then at some point, we're going to reach a point where you're either going to take a vote or you're not going to take a vote. Understood?
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed at your own pace then, sir.
I'm replacing a deck. The old deck was dangerous. And I'm just making it a little bit bigger back towards the house, back towards my backyard and into my house, towards my house, not towards the property line. Basically, that's what I'm doing. It's a second floor deck that I'm replacing. An
Okay.
existing deck.
I'm just trying to pull up your survey now. I've seen it before, but I just want to have it for reference. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll go to the zoning officer. He'll tell us why you're here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As Mr. Nathanson said, he has a second story kind of deck balcony that's pretty typical of our two-story like split level homes here in Old Bridge off the back of the home. From what I understand from Mr. Nathanson, the deck is in a dilapidated state. and he's reconstructing it. In reconstructing it, he's decided to enlarge it slightly. I believe the deck size currently is 10 by 10 or 12 by 12.
Yeah.
And he's going to a 16 by 16 deck. So it's a fairly modest enlargement. He's proposing this 16 by 16 deck, which is approximately 9 foot high, 9.5 foot high off the grade, 15 foot 3 inches from the side property line, where a minimum of 20 feet is required. What's unique about this property is that if you review the survey, take a look at the survey, you'll notice that the front property line is approximately 98.5 feet in length, maybe a little bit more, 98.69. And the rear property line is 83.5. So the property narrows and cinches a little bit towards the property. And while Mr. Nathanson is accurate that he is not extending the deck towards the property line on the left side as you face it from the street, or to the right as you're looking at it on the survey, the sheer fact that the property cinches does bring his now further extended deck a little bit closer to the property line. Currently, it exists at about 16.1 at the base of the deck where it meets the house, and it's probably 15.5, 15.75 feet at the edge, that back right edge. So by bringing it closer to the pool, he is, because the line narrows, bringing it closer to the property line. But he is keeping it in line with the existing home. That is a unique condition where if he had a straight line, this setback would not have changed, and
Right.
we would likely be having a different conversation. We did discuss reconfiguring the deck so that he can have a slightly wider deck into the home, since he has a lot of room there. I believe the issue there is if he brought it in to comply with the setback requirement, he would have to reconfigure the sliding glass door that goes onto the deck, because the sliding glass door is very close to the edge of the house. I think it's only a couple of feet from that edge of the house, and he would have had to bring in the deck approximately 4.5, 5 feet to be able to get that back right corner to meet the 20-foot setback requirement. For that reason, and the amount of work that was going to entail, Mr. Nathanson opted to come for a variance this evening.
What's the measurement coming off? What's the short?
The short is 4 3/4 feet,
Right.
because he's proposing 15.3. The requirement is a 20-foot setback for a deck of this height.
Wasn't it the same before as well?
Technically, it was.
Right.
The issue is that because it's getting longer,
Yeah.
it's getting a little bit closer to the property line.
I get it. But it will look nice going back in line with the house, right?
Yes, to kick it in would then create a jog in the deck that would be a little atypical.
Right. Mr. Nathanson, as you face your house, and I did drive by your house, obviously I couldn't see the rear of it, and it's not my business to see that. To the left, as I look at your house, there's a fence that runs all the way back, correct?
Yes,
So your neighbor next to you, you're not going to hurt their vision any by being in the same line with your house. It's already there, correct?
yes.
Okay. Did you want your contractor to tell us anything?
George,
No, everything's right on point, you know?
And you would agree, Mr. Mayosis?
Marusis. Yes,
It would make no sense, and it would be a lot of extra work to move a sliding door, I would assume, in order to line that up.
yes, and if we had to go for the 20 feet, we would have to, like the gentleman said, move it in 4 to 5 feet. And then the door would have to switch over, another 4 to 5 feet. So, I think where the pool's located, and if we stay even with the side of the house, I think it'll look the best, obviously, like you guys had said.
And I would guess if the rear, Mr. Gill, if the rear of the property, if it had come out to a square, we wouldn't be having this conversation now, right?
Correct, because it would be an existing setback that wouldn't be exacerbated.
Okay, board members, questions of the applicant or his contractor? I see no hands. Mr. Clancy?
No additional questions. It seems like the ground has been well covered on this.
Yeah, and I guess it's a bit of a hardship the way the property was cut there to make it look would be. I mean, he could move the deck over, but I think that would be a hardship as the contractor just spoke about too.
Yeah, it's like where you kind of used to seeing pie-shaped lots on cul-de-sacs. This is almost like a reverse pie shape where the
Exactly.
rear narrows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. You have any final comments, Mr. Nathanson? I'm going to have to go to a public portion, okay?
No, not at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is matter 30-2023Z. The physical location is 16 Higgins Road. It's for a deck because it's going to be short on one side, too close to the setback. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter, there's phone numbers, as I explained before, in front of you. You can call any one of those and you'll be connected in order to speak with the board live. Is anyone presently in queue, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Once again, if you're watching at home and you have any interest, this matter will be decided this evening. So there will not be any further public portion. The public portion is only tonight, as we will, come to some decision on this matter. So we would ask you to pick up your phone and call now if you're interested, or we have to move forward. I didn't look at the time clock, but are we past the minute, Mr. Clancy?
We're almost there. We got a few more seconds to go, but again, these are the same numbers that'll be used throughout the night. So if you have a future application, make sure you take the
Yes,
numbers
if
down
anybody's
now.
watching, right, for the next application, please take one of the numbers down now. It is the same numbers as Mr. Clancy has said for any of the applications this evening. And with reference to this one at 16 Higgins Road, I'm going to close the public portion very shortly because I'm going to check one more time. We have given enough time, I believe. I'll check with the attorney, but then we will have to close the public portion. Mr. Clancy, are we getting close?
Yes, we're at that point now. If there's nobody in queue, Ms.
Ms.
Z.
C, is there anyone in queue?
No.
I'm gonna close the public portion on this matter. We'll go back to the board. Any final questions or comments, board members? I see no hands. Mr. Nathanson, any final comment?
No,
Okay, you realize, as I warned the other applicant, there are only four voting members. You need 3 positive votes. Are you satisfied with that in order to take this vote?
yes,
Okay. Mr. Clancy, this is a simple C for setback, side yard setback, correct?
Yeah, simple. This will be a hardship variance, exactly due to the nature of the property.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Board members, you've heard the call for the vote. Is anyone interested in moving this application?
Andrews, move it.
Is there a second to Ms. Andrews?
Izzo,
Mr. Rizzo, roll call, please, Ms. C.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Miss Andrews,
Yes,
Mr. Izzo,
yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes, I'm glad to see you're upkeeping your house and you're going to make it look just as good as it was before, right? With a new deck. I wish you the
Thank-
best of luck and the best of usage. Thank you for appearing before the board and thank your contractor for appearing before the board.
Thank you, everybody.
Your resolution available at our next meeting. Okay, so you don't have to appear, but that's when it will be allowed. So check with your building department. Okay,
thank you very much. Have a good
thank you,
night.
sir. Good night to both.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Okay, final application of the evening, 31-2023Z. It's Joseph Abu. This is a medium high density R7 zone.
Mr. Chairman, we have
I'm
2
sorry.
more.
I'm sorry?
2
Oh,
more,
I have
not the
another
last
page.
one
I'm
yet.
sorry. Yes, there's another one. This matter is 31-2023Z, Joseph Abu. The block is 26042 lot 22, 300 Morgan Avenue, home addition and portico requiring C variance. Mr. Abu, okay, I see you on the bottom of my screen. I see there's a lady next to you. Are both of you going to testify, sir?
Yes.
Okay, board attorney will swear you both in.
Okay, if you just both raise your right hands. Okay, do you solemnly swear any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, and then you can put your hands down and then just one at a time, just state your name for the record.
Joseph Abu.
Rena Abu.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Abu, you probably get tired of hearing what I've said twice before, but just give us the whys, the wherefores, what you're trying to do to your home, how you're going to accomplish that, why that's necessary. And you obviously you don't have any professional witnesses, correct? Meaning an architect or anything?
Thomas, I believe. I don't know if you want to speak.
Okay, okay.
Yes, Thomas Torres with Room 117, the architect
Okay.
for the project.
We'll get to you, sir. Let me go to the applicant first, okay? Unless you want to turn it right over to your applicant, Mr. Abu, you could tell us what you're planning on doing in your home and he can explain the particulars.
We wanted to extend the front of our house so we could have a formal dining room. So right now, our dining room is shared with our living room. Just more space for our growing children.
Okay, and you say you have growing children, so you need more rooms. That
Yeah, I mean, overall, we also just want to have
okay?
more room.
All right, and this is going to extend. We'll get to the particulars, but when you make this addition, what exactly are you going to? What's going to happen inside? Are you getting extra rooms, extra bedrooms? What?
Not extra bedrooms. So right now, our dining room is shared with the living room space. So once we extend that, we can move our dining room to its own area by the kitchen,
right,
and the living room space will be on its own.
And then the portico is going to be the main entrance.
Yes.
Okay. Does Mrs. Abu want to say anything at this point or no?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. You want to turn it over to your architect?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Is it Doris?
Doris, yes.
Doris. The board attorney will swear you in, sir.
Sure.
Sure. If you would raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Okay, you can lower your hand. You've already stated your name for the record. Why don't you give us some of your credentials so the board can review them?
Sure. I have a Bachelor of Architecture degree from NJIT, and I am a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. My license is current and in good standing.
Okay, you testified before any boards like this before?
Yes, not in Old Bridge, but in towns nearby.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr.
Said your
Chairman?
license is current, sir. When was it issued? In what year? When did you get it?
Issued in 2017,
Okay,
and it was just renewed 2023.
that's fine. We'll accept your credentials, sir. You can go ahead.
Sure. I will share my screen now if that's okay, or I guess I need permission.
Natalie.
Mr. Torres, yes, I can pull up the architectural plans that were submitted and you just let me know if I need to navigate anywhere, okay?
Okay, sure.
Hang on one second.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's fine. I believe the sheet is A001, the first sheet, which shows our site plan. So on drawing number 1 is the existing site plan. In gray, we show the proposed addition at the front of the house. So essentially the entire width of the house, which is approximately 30 feet by 6 foot depth, we're forming a new addition on the exterior, extending into the front yard. I think we can go to the next page. Okay, sheet A101. The 2 drawings at the top there are the most pertinent to our discussion. Drawing 1 on the left is the existing floor plan. Drawing 2 is the proposed floor plan. So as you can see in drawing number 1, across the front of the house, we have the existing living room, dining room, and also the kitchen. You can see just visually in the floor plan that the spaces are very shallow. Functionally, they don't perform very well. I believe the spaces are roughly about 10 feet deep. So for both the kitchen and the living room, these dimensions are difficult to live with. Drawing number 2 to the right, this is our proposal. The walls that are shaded in gray are the new walls. So essentially, we're adding 6 feet to the entire width of the house. The 6 feet does quite a bit for the functionality of these spaces. The existing kitchen will be renovated to be a similar layout, but we do have now space to provide a small eating area. On the left side of the house, the living room is extended, so there can be, a more functional and a slightly more luxurious furniture layout. When there's company, the house performs much better. Directly outside of that toward the front, we have designed a small 6-foot wide by 3.5-foot deep portico. So just providing the house with a small sheltered entry space because there is currently only a small concrete stoop with no roof overhang. And for this sheet, we have a lot of construction details that we don't really need to go over. So I think we can circulate to the next page. All right, so I think, okay, so at the top we have on the left, drawing number 1, the existing floor plan, I'm sorry, existing front elevation. And on the right, we have the proposed front elevation. As you can see, the silhouette of the house is going to be unchanged from this perspective. The 6-foot addition is coming out at us. And the small portico does a nice job of framing the entry and providing some coverage to those who are entering the house. Lower down on the same page, drawings number 3 and 4, we have the existing side elevation and the proposed side elevation. So this is where you can really see how the addition takes form in 3 dimensions. The roof of the new addition is going to be overframed on top of the existing roof. And you can see the portico that extends out only a few feet. So we kept the aesthetics of the design fairly simple. Materials of the new addition are going to match those of the existing house, as will the siding and the roofing will match those of the existing house. So it will blend in with what is already there. And then further down on the last page, I think we show the remaining elevations. Right, so from the opposite side of the house, the addition is going to appear the same. And then lower, the last drawing, we just show a cross section of the house, which is mainly for construction purposes, but it gives you an idea of just the existing silhouette of the house and how this new appendage of the house attaches. So you can see how this just expands quite a bit with only a small addition. And I think that's all we need to discuss in terms of the architectural drawings for now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Doris. Board members, questions of the architect or the applicant at this point? This does seem pretty straightforward. Mr. Gill, front yard setback, I'm assuming here.
Correct, Chairman. There's 2 ways to look at the front yard setback here. The technical variance is a 17-foot setback where 25-foot is required. The 17-foot is created by the portico. As this board is no doubt familiar, we occasionally get applications for houses which are at the setback. They want to put a little cover over the front portico. It's no different here. The exception here is that there's also an addition being done to the front of the home, which brings it all closer to the property line. The addition rests at approximately 20 foot from the property line, so the mass of the building is at 20 feet, and the portico creates that extra 3.5 foot deficiency. I won't go too much into the application. I think the applicant's professional and the applicant did a good job of surmising what is being done, and I think the architectural plans give a pretty good indication of what's going to be accomplished by this addition. The only thing that I would ask of the board, or not of the board, of the applicant or the applicant's professional, is that if we were to look at an alternative addition, maybe an addition to the rear of the home that would add this amount of square footage, to confirm my suspicion, it wouldn't accomplish what the applicant is proposing to do, because there are rooms back there, presumably bedrooms or other recreation spaces, and would require them to reconfigure the entire house to accomplish this larger kitchen and larger living space. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Then that's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Doris, would you agree with that? It would be
Yes, currently at the rear portion of the first floor, there's a small bedroom and office, so they're the more private spaces. We're capitalizing on where the more communal spaces of the house are, and making the addition in the front. Additionally, we'd like to keep the kitchen and all that infrastructure in place. And that's why we wanted to attempt to have the addition on the front rather than the back.
I fully understood. Did you look around the area? I visited the house and I looked around the area. I've seen this done on some other homes there. Would you agree?
Yes, we did some mapping exercises and we found that 3 houses at least on the block, 2 on the same side and 1 across the street, have kind of small bump outs that look approximately the same depth as the addition that we're proposing. So it's kind of a similar, the line of houses on the block are at one space, or at one line, and then this little bump out occurs on several houses.
Yeah, I did notice that we're looking up and down the street, and of course, this is a dead end where where the booths are. But even going, extending it out, you can see that it has. You can literally look down and see where the houses have done that, and it doesn't really look out of order. I mean, it looks a good use of the land, to tell you the truth, in my opinion. Would you agree with that, sir?
Yes. I think so. I think it's sort of like a block with 2 different generations of homes, those that have the front bump out and those that don't. So it's kind of continuing the pattern of the block.
Right, trying to make use of the best use as they can of the what they have.
Correct.
Okay, board members, questions, once again, anybody? I see none. Okay, I'm gonna, Mr. Abu, I'm gonna go to a public portion as I did before, okay, sir? I'll come back and we'll ask if you want to vote. This is matter 31-2023Z. This location, physical location is 300 Morgan Avenue in Old Bridge. This is for home addition of portico, requiring a front yard setback. If anybody wants to speak on this matter, have questions or concerns, now would be the time to do so. The phone numbers are up. They have been up all evening for each application. Is there anyone in queue at present, Ms. C?
No.
Okay, this seems pretty straightforward to me, and this is actions that the board has taken before. I will have to give a little time for anybody at home to try and call in should they be concerned. Once again, this matter will be decided this evening if the Abus want to vote. So I would assume that this will be the only public portion on this matter. If you have any current concerns, comments, questions, now would be the only time to get that done by calling in to one of those numbers. Ms. C, anyone call in?
No, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Clancy, on your advice?
We're clear to close the public comment.
All right, thank you, sir. Public portion is closed on this matter. Any final comments, Mr. Abu? And then I'm going to ask you if you'd like me to take a vote.
No comment. And
Okay.
yes,
Once again, I'll warn you that there are 4 members voting. You need 3 of the 4 to be successful in your application. You understand that, correct?
yes,
Okay, and in knowing that, you want me to proceed with the vote, correct?
yes.
Okay. This is a matter for, what's the setback on this, Damian? Would you repeat it again for us, please? It was 17 where 25 required?
Correct, Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Clancy?
Yes, so we have an application here for a C variance relief for front yard setback underneath probably it could be C2 variance.
Yep.
For because of the layout of the house. The alternative design would not work here as the testimony has been placed on the record. There was no additional concerns that I heard from the board other than the ordinary compliance measures. So I would turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and Mr. Doris, the applicant knows that the addition has to match the present home, and the work has to be completed in 1 year if he gets a successful vote.
Yes.
Okay, you're aware of that, Mr. Abu?
Yeah.
Okay. Is someone in favor of moving this application for approval?
Izzo,
Mr. Izzo, is there a second to Mr. Izzo?
Andrews,
All right, moved in second, roll call, please, Ms. C.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
yes.
Mr. Izzo,
yes,
Chairman Sullivan.
It's great when people reinvest in their own homes, it's good. It makes your investment stronger and it makes the community stronger that you stay and not leave. So of course, my vote is yes. There will be a resolution available at the next meeting. Please keep in contact with your building department for your permits. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Abu. Thank you, Mr. Doris, for your appearance.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
But
Okay, and now, Ms. C, I would be correct in saying there's one more application, the last. This is 36-2023Z Wellington Pierre. This is the medium density residential R15, lot 3236, lot 28, 102 Autumn Road, gazebo, patios, and fence requiring a C variance. Applicant seeks relief for existing gazebo, paver patio, masonry block, and fence. Okay, this is already done. There's Mr. Pierre. Oh, okay, I see right in the middle of the screen, sir, in my screen anyway. Sir, there's a woman sitting next to you. Both of you going to be testifying?
Mostly me, but yes.
You want to swear her in as well?
Yes.
You might as well. You're going to get elbowed, but when she wants to say
Yes.
something anyway, so. You can avoid, just avoid the pain now.
Exactly.
Mr. Clancy, I'll turn it over to you.
it's always good when you swear everybody in, they can speak freely. It makes it a lot easier. So yes, both of you, if you raise your right hand, looks like you got them up. If you would, do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can lower your hands and then just one at a time, place your names on the record.
Wellington Pierre.
Diane Salpierre.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're residing at this residence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've heard my speech too many times tonight, so you know what I'm going to ask you to tell us who, why,
Yes.
where. The only difference here is, I guess all of this is done already, so you're going to ask relief from the board after the fact. So
Yes.
why don't you run us around your property? It's unique in many ways. I know it's a corner lot, and I know that there's nothing behind you except greenery. And I guess that I'll ask you some questions as to whether it's preserved land back there or what that is. But why don't you go ahead and tell us about what happened there?
All right. So we moved in 2016, and then in 2021 we decided to upgrade our fence. And where the canopy is, there was just brush there. So we decided to make it a sitting area. But when we have company, I don't know if you in the front where our house is, we have a small little patio. So we decided to take down the old patio and then just put down pavers around where the old patio was, and then circling around to the left. So it could be a sitting area also, because sometimes we have a lot of guests over. We use the same posts that were there already. We didn't move the post. So we just followed the post that was there. And again, we just cleared out the brush and then put pavers back there. And then we set the gazebo back there. We're from New York, Staten Island, New York. And we didn't really know we needed permits because we didn't get professional contractors to come out to get permits for us. Most of the work was mostly done by friends and family.
Sir, when you're talking about that on your survey, it's called canopy. Is that the same thing we're talking about?
Yes, the gazebo.
All the way back to the rear of the lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And repetitive masonry block and the fence. What fence are we referring to, sir?
Well, it's the fence on, we upgraded the whole area.
Okay.
So we did the back, the front, the two sides.
All right. And would you tell me what behind your property, what is that back there? Is it?
We have no idea. Ever since we moved there, we've been trying to figure out what it is. They've come in, cut the grass, and then it just sits there. It looks like a river or like a sewer thing that's there.
More of a drainage area, I would think.
So it's like the two blocks, so the other block and our block, and then there's like a ditch in between the two blocks.
Yeah.
So it's like a
drainage.
drainage between the two blocks.
Let me ask you one question. Are you covered by a homeowners association?
No.
You're not? Okay.
No.
Okay, so that I don't know what that land is there, and there would be homes on the far side of that wooded area, correct?
Yes.
Which almost, I don't know if you can see them from your home. It's very hard to. I can see.
We wouldn't be able to see it. No, we can't.
I would assume they can't see you either, right?
No.
Yeah, no, there's just trees in between.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Anything else you want to tell us here before I ask Mr. Gill, what variances we need to consider?
No, that's basically it.
Okay. Was that in 2021? I guess we were coming out of COVID. You were thinking of doing that
Yes.
on your own, like a lot of people did.
Yes, correct.
Maybe it was. I guess everybody really didn't know what was going to happen, and I guess they wanted to make the best out of their homes
Yeah,
and
the best of your home, staying home.
stay in your home, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. Mr. Gill, could you tell us about this property?
Of course, Chairman. I'm not sure. I just wanted to, before we jump into that, I did want to touch a little bit on the drainage basin that's behind there. It's what we call a dry basin. So there's a retention area, but it normally sits dry until we have moderate rainfalls to heavy rainfalls. But yeah, it fills up in there, holds, and then slowly seeps back into the ground. They wouldn't be able to see the houses on Balmoral, which would be on the far side. There's a very large or substantial topographic change. There's approximately a 20-foot rise. As you go back to Balmoral houses actually drop off about 25 feet behind their fence lines. That being stated, we're going to come back to 102 Autumn. So the applicant described essentially what they did pretty accurately. I'll read, because there's quite a bit of improvements and some conditions. I'm going to read directly from the denial letter. The applicant has submitted an application to legitimize a 12 by 20 gazebo that was previously constructed without a permit. The gazebo was constructed approximately 5.5 feet from the rear property line where 10 foot is required. The gazebo was also constructed in the front yard where no accessory structures are permitted. It should also be noted that a rear yard paver patio that encompasses the gazebo was constructed without a permit approximately 1 foot from the property line, from the rear property line where 3 foot is required. The applicant has also constructed a rear yard masonry block patio on the left side of the property, 0 feet from the side property line where 3 foot is required on the survey that's identified as an outdoor kitchen. The applicant has also constructed a 6-foot vinyl fence that wraps the property that is approximately 2.5 feet onto block 15 and 1.5 feet onto block 27 without a permit. The applicant will require multiple C variances for the gazebo rear yard setback, the paver patio rear yard setback, the placement of the gazebo, the masonry block patio side yard setback, and any other variances, exceptions, and or waivers that may be required. The application is pretty straightforward. And I think you touched on it very well, Chairman, that during COVID times, people were doing a lot of stuff to make their properties more comfortable because we were kind of sequestered on our personal properties. So they've made some lovely improvements to the home. These are not by any means modest improvements, but for technical reasons, we have some issues. Because these were constructed, there really wasn't a lot of discussion about potentially installing these in areas where they could mitigate some of these conditions. The reality is that the patio and gazebo area would have likely necessitated a placement variance regardless, because it is in a front yard, because this is a corner property. And for them to build a structure like that, they would have had to build it almost right on top of the pool or at the very back of the property. And likely there would still be a rear yard condition there. The same thing with the patio on the left side where the outdoor kitchen is. Based on our historical research of the property, even prior to the ownership of the current owners, there appears to have been some improvements to that area. It looks like they kind of restabilized it and maybe enlarged it a little bit. It isn't clear entirely, but they're nevertheless, the improvements are too close to the property line, and there wasn't an opportunity for us to alert them to that beforehand. Really, the primary concern that I have, that I would actually defer to our attorney, is the fact that the fence posts, whether they were existing or not, do encroach onto adjacent parcels. And I don't know that the board has the ability to grant anything like that. So it would be my recommendation, subject to the attorney's input, that if the board were to act favorably on any of these conditions or on any portion of this application, that the approval be conditioned on them relocating the fence to the property line to alleviate any title issues that may exist.
Yeah, when I looked at this the other day, I thought the same thing about the fence being over and how that's going to be solved. I mean, it's not an easy issue, but I think it's one that has to be addressed here. I can understand. I would just say, and I'm not I'm not trying to give advice, but often people should seek advice because it runs in, you know, when you're just talking about a matter of a foot or so, what you might see, it really isn't real where the real line is. And that's what people wind up getting in a little bit of a problem. Now they're going to have to reconfigure this. It's in some way and fashion. Mr. Clancy, I'm guessing the fence has got to be taken care of. I mean, it just.
Mr. Gill and yourself, they're right on the money. So that the issue is that the board doesn't have the power to grant legalization of a fence that is constructed on property that's owned by someone other than the applicants.
Right.
And that's just the facts that we're presented with here. So there's no way for the board to legally grant that aspect of this application.
Mr. Pierre, I guess you understand the situation that we're in too, right?
Yes.
We can't give permission because we don't have the legal authority to give permission to do that. And obviously we have to act under, you know, municipal land use law. And again, we would be wrong in even attempting to do that. The other issues that we could mitigate, Mr. Gill, would be the canopy, correct, in the rear?
The canopy in the rear, the
Yep.
patio in the rear that undergirds or it provides the foundation for the patio, for the canopy, and then
Right.
the outdoor kitchen on the left side.
But that looks like it goes over the line too.
It does cross the line a little bit too. So my recommendation there would be that they'd have to cut back that
Yeah.
6 inches to a foot, whatever the case may
Whatever
be,
the line is.
to address that. If the board wanted to look favorably on the rest of the application, obviously.
I understand.
You know, one of the things and I also, Chairman, don't want to give advice. One of the things that I have discussed with applicants where there are fences that were put in by neighbors a little too far into the property line that would create a 3 or 4 foot no man's land between properties is I've advised homeowners who want to butt up fences to seek cooperation from their neighbors and file applications on their neighbors' behalf with their consent to install fences on those properties. Because again, we don't have the jurisdiction to allow encroachments onto other people's properties, but we can't stop homeowners from applying on their own behalf for improvements. Again, I don't know how we would do this. I would defer to our attorney, but I would say we could address those things kind of separately.
We
If the applicant was so inclined.
We did have a situation where the two homeowners came in a few years back, and they used one line. It was one person was putting in the pool, and the other neighbors were getting the benefit of having a door in between to use the pools because they were very close friends. But it was the exact problem with right on the property line. Mr. Clancy, I'm gonna have to take advice from you on this. Can we enact in any part of this, or should we put this on hold until those situations are remedied?
Right. So just for the benefit of the applicant, who I understand is not represented by an attorney here, we can't give them advice, but what we can do is discuss what the board is presented with here. So the board has effectively received this application. There's 4 variances here. It looks by all accounts of what's been put on the record so far, like 2 of them would be impossible for the board to grant. And there's still obviously a violation. So one of the ways and the other thing I will mention for the benefit of the folks who are applying here is that you really only get one bite out of this apple. Once this is denied by the board, you can't really resubmit the same application back. It's once it's already been, voted upon. So all votes are kind of final here. So there's a a certain gravity to putting this before the board and calling for a vote, which has not been done yet. One of the things that can be done when you encounter an issue like this would be to either request that the application be carried to a different day, and then you could maybe make some changes to the current situation at the property, which might modify the application to some degree. Another thing which has been proposed here would be maybe to withdraw the application prior to a vote and maybe seek out, other remedies out there, whether it's speaking to other homeowners who may apply with you, given the situation and the way it's been for a while. That's another way to do it. But what I will say is I don't know that this can go forward in front of the board with two components of this being impossible for the board to act upon. So basically, two of these items are already impossible for them to grant, and we still have violations. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, so question, would I be able, do I have time to look into these remedies with the either speaking to the neighbor or moving the fence? Or would I have time to, with these violations, to be able to do that?
So, well, as I said, there's a couple different ways that you can go forward with this. I think maybe the best thing might be if you wanted to ask the board to carry this to another date for now, and you can explore remedies, whether it's withdrawing the application and submitting a new one. That's another way to go with it. The benefit of carrying is you could request the board's permission to carry it without providing additional notice to, I know there's some expense involved there. So, we can't make decisions for you or tell you what to do. All we can do is kind of tell you what will happen if things move forward.
Yeah, Mr. Pierre, you have a very nice home, and you did a very nice, a job on improvements there. And the board doesn't want to harm you, but the board obviously can't take illegal action. So I think that Mr. Clancy was, I don't want to say giving you free legal advice, but he's giving you advice of what is available to you. Right now, the board cannot act, and which means you can't bring this actual application back to us like this. So you'd have to either withdraw, but if you withdraw, so you understand, once you file a new application, you'd have to re-notify. There's an expense involved in that. But if you withdraw right now, I mean, if you ask for a continuance, we could allow that, and you could kind of gather your thoughts and perhaps figure out a new plan to come back with. And you could still come back and withdraw it, but at this point, you might not want to do that. But we can't take any really further action, so there'd be no reason to hear any more testimony. And I don't want to get you in deeper than you're at already. So I think we're just trying to get, probably the best thing you could do, and it's up to you, would maybe to ask for a continuance on this matter. And then maybe you could work something out with people that or, however that may be, but we can't interfere in that. So that's what the attorney was trying to explain. So,
okay.
Chairman, if I may just add.
Go ahead.
I also wanted to share, just because he spoke specifically about violations, as long as the application is active and you're diligently pursuing it, we're not going to engage in enforcement on you. To try to force you to do something right now while you're trying to legitimize things would be counterproductive to the whole process. So as long as the application remains active and you're working towards it, we'd give you the time necessary. And we could also speak, you can call my office and we can speak offline about some of these options to flesh them out a little bit more and maybe go over some other things that you can do, Mr. Pierre.
Okay, great. Can I have your phone number?
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
It's on the
my extension is 2460. Feel free to give us a call tomorrow.
Let me just find out, would you think maybe, Mr. Clancy, maybe a couple months moving forward rather than putting it up too close?
Yeah, because obviously there's some work that's going to need to be done on the back end here, and an ultimate decision that's going to have to be made as to what this application is going to be. So if the applicant were to ask for a continuance tonight and the board were to grant that, I think it would be prudent to probably put it out maybe 2 or 3 months at least.
Well, we have the expiration date of 9/20/23. Does that come into play if he's?
Chairman, we could, Mr. Clancy, I believe we could have them sign a continuation form.
Yeah, effectively they could waive it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, would you be willing to do that, Mr. Pierre?
Which I would recommend to the board, by the way, just so we're not, as a condition of us approving that.
Yeah. We would agree to a continuance if you agree to go beyond the expiration date of 9/20.
Yes,
So
I would.
would that be something you'd be willing to do, Mr. Pierre?
Yes, that's fine. Yes.
So at this matter, you're not withdrawing, you're merely asking for a continuance. And then you're going to be asked to sign a form that may not be by September, so you might need an extra month or so. So you'll have to see the planning office, and they would help you out on that, okay?
Okay.
So in this case, we're not going to make any judgment at this point. We're just going to continue this matter, and that'll be a date that'll be set. We won't have it right now, Ms. C, right? We don't need to. actually-
We can actually give a date. We are booked through September, so the next available date would be October 19.
10/19?
Yes,
Okay, and that's, of course, having him sign an agreement to.
yes, our office will reach out tomorrow with
Okay,
that form.
you understand, Mr. Pierre?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I think that probably be in the best interest, and that way we don't have to go any further on this, and you'll have time to get together whatever your plans may be. But we want to thank you both for appearing before the board. Mr. Clancy, there's no need for me to open up a public portion, right? Because we're continuing.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Pierre, I also want to say that I'll give you a call tomorrow. When Natalie calls you, I'll be on the call too. That way we can chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank
No
you both Pierres for appearing before us tonight, and we wish you luck, and I'm sure you'll work this out so you can come back before the board soon.
All right, thank you so much.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Good night.
Have a good
Now it's the time for general public comments. If you wanted to call in and talk to us, those numbers were up. I hope you have one. Anybody in queue to talk tonight? Ms. C?
No,
Okay. We'll go around. Anything from the township and Ms. C that you want to relay to us? Next meeting?
next meeting is August 3rd. That is in person.
Okay.
And I believe I circulated an email earlier today letting you know that the annual report will be carried to that next meeting.
Okay, I did say that earlier, and I probably didn't see that, but yes, to close that out this evening, it's going to be, when is it? What date are we putting it on for?
August 3rd, that is our next meeting.
We'll put it on for the August 3rd. Okay, great.
Yes.
And Mr. Clancy, anything on the legal front?
No, I think I'll see you on August 3rd. I think I'm coming out. It's nice to see everybody in person, and we'll have some resolutions from tonight ready to put into the record. That's kind of it.
That's great. Has anyone called in, Ms. C?
No, Chairman.
All right, we can close down and the numbers, close the general public comments. And once again, board members, any final comments? Anybody want? Mr. Rizzo, anything? Ms. Andrews, good?
No.
Nothing.
And Mr. Stoner, thank you all for being here tonight. I know it's tough during the summer sometimes, but one way or the other, we have to act. So I'm glad you were all here for us tonight. Mr. Clancy, thank you for your counsel, and Mr. Gill and Ms. C for all that you do to help the board out to try and make these decisions. Having said that, I'll ask for someone to move for an adjournment.
I'll move it.
Mr. Stoner moves it. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the month, and we'll see you soon in August.
Yeah, see you then.
Take care.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.